Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is literally the ultimate creative quest, fusing classic narrative theory with AI visual generation to bring your stories to life. Whether you're an aspiring manga artist, a hardcore anime enthusiast, or honestly just someone who loves a truly great story, we're going to break down exactly how you can build a captivating world right from the ground up.
Now, for a lot of aspiring creators, just staring at a blank page can feel, well, utterly terrifying, right? The pressure to invent a massive, sprawling universe right out of the gate, it paralyzes so many of us. But don't worry. Let's look at how to overcome that initial block step by step so you can actually start creating without all that overwhelm.
I absolutely love this quote from AutoWeeb because it hits the nail on the head. You don't need a complete world or a perfect plot, you need a protagonist worth following and a problem worth solving. It brilliantly illustrates that every great anime starts with just a simple spark, a character and a conflict. Before you stress out about intricate magic systems or the grand political lore of your universe, you just need someone the audience actually cares about and a massive problem standing in their way.
So part 1, the monomyth narrative blueprint. To turn that spark into a raging fire, we need an engine. And that brings us to the ultimate storytelling framework, the monomyth. Popularized by Joseph Campbell way back in 1949, this is essentially the universal template of stories where a hero goes on an adventure, wins a decisive crisis, and comes home totally transformed. Understanding this blueprint is kind of like receiving your own supernatural aid for the creative process. Campbell basically observed that across completely different cultures and eras, human beings tell the exact same foundational story. By tapping into this, you're aligning your new anime hero with the deep psychological rhythms that we've been responding to for literally thousands of years.
Now, Campbell originally broke this journey down into 17 specific stages, which is a lot, but we can easily map them chronologically across 3 overarching acts to make it way more digestible. First up is the departure, where the hero is separated from their normal life. Then comes the initiation, which is this descent into the unknown filled with trials. And finally, the return, where the hero brings a newfound power or wisdom back home.
Let's look at that first act, the departure. We've got the call to adventure, supernatural aid, crossing the first threshold, and the belly of the whale. The most visually evocative stage here is absolutely the belly of the whale. It's this worldwide womb image that represents ego death. Basically, it's a willingness to undergo a complete metamorphosis. It is the exact moment your hero realizes, okay, there is absolutely no turning back now.
To see how this actually works in practice, think about how George Lucas deliberately mapped the original Star Wars to this exact hero's journey. He used the Death Star trash compactor as the literal belly of the whale. So whether it's the biblical Jonah getting swallowed by a giant fish, or a sci-fi hero trapped in a smelly, shrinking trash compactor, this stage is incredibly flexible. It acts as a symbolic death before the hero is reborn into their brand new reality.
Once reborn, we dive into the initiation. In this intense middle act, our protagonist faces a grueling series of tests on the road of trials. Along the way, they might experience a powerful meeting with the goddess or face a really difficult atonement with a father figure or an abyss. Ultimately, they have to confront whatever holds the ultimate power over them. This struggle leads to apotheosis, a thrilling point of realization where they achieve a greater understanding, allowing the hero to claim the ultimate boon. And that boon is the very thing they set out to find in the first place.
But getting that ultimate boon back to humanity isn't always a walk in the park. A hero might face a refusal of the return, hesitating to go back to their boring, ordinary life. Or they might even need a sudden rescue from without just to escape danger. This often leads to the magic flight, which is an intense, and honestly sometimes comical pursuit as the hero escapes with their prize. The whole journey concludes with the hero becoming the master of the two worlds, having perfectly balanced the spiritual lessons they've learned with the material world they have to live in.
All right, part 2, visualizing the anime hero. Let's pivot from the narrative theory and see how we actually translate this epic hero into stunning visuals using AI prompts. We've got the structural skeleton, right? Now it's time to put flesh, color, and lighting onto those bones. To get truly great results from AI generators, you have to master anime-specific terminology to build up your character design fundamentals. Like, if you just type anime boy, you're going to get incredibly generic results. But if you use precise vocabulary, like ahage for that signature single strand of unruly hair, or chibi for a cute miniature style, or specify a bishunen aesthetic for a pretty boy look, you take complete control over your hero's visual identity.
Notice how the visual style completely dictates the emotional tone of your story. Just comparing these two prompts, Studio Ghibli versus 90s retro anime, shows how vastly different your hero's journey will feel just by changing the studio or era aesthetic. A Ghibli prompt, with its soft watercolor warmth, natural lighting, and fluffy clouds, wraps your departure act in warmth and nostalgia. On the flip side, a 90s retro prompt, using a VHS color palette, washed-out tones, and scan lines, gives it a much grittier, vintage texture.
And when the stakes get higher, your prompts should evolve too. Take Makoto Shinkai versus dark fantasy manga. If your hero is facing the road of trials, a dark fantasy prompt with heavy crosshatch shading, dramatic lightning, and obsidian armor sets a completely different, intense mood compared to a cinematic Shinkai sunset with golden hour lighting and lens flares. You can literally tailor your AI visual prompts to match the exact narrative stage of the monomyth your hero is currently in.
Also, we can't forget how to frame the action. When you're visualizing your hero's central crisis, you want to use specific compositional keywords to mimic the dynamic layouts of professional manga panels. Dropping phrases like manga cover art, color spreads, double page spreads, or dramatic speed lines into your AI prompt will instantly give your generation that absolute high-stakes kinetic energy that manga is so famous for.
Moving on to Part 3, Evolving the Mythic Mold. To truly master the art of creation, we really need to explore the criticisms of our blueprint and learn when it's time to break the mold entirely.
Because the monomyth is a tool, not a cage. As folklorist Alan Duns has pointed out, there is no single idea promulgated by amateurs that have done more harm to serious folklore study than the notion of archetype. Wow. This really highlights the academic pushback against Campbell's theories. Folklorists point out a massive source selection bias, basically arguing that Campbell only picks stories that fit his preconceived pattern while completely ignoring the countless narratives that didn't. It's a great reminder that human storytelling is wildly diverse, and you definitely aren't forced to stick to just one path.
In fact, as a result of different storytelling traditions, scholars identify what they call the American monomyth. This is seen in characters like Jack Reacher. Instead of a journey to the unknown, it's a distinct reaction where a selfless superhero emerges to save a threatened paradise from an external evil. And then, instead of becoming a master of two worlds at the end, they simply vanish back into obscurity. It's a totally different trajectory, and you know what? It might actually fit your anime's premise a whole lot better.
Then there's the female heroine's journey. Authors like Charlotte Bronte modified the journey entirely. Characters like Jane Eyre and Psyche face distinct obstacles revolving around liberty, power, and societal ostracization rather than typical external quests. Jane Eyre seeks both love and liberty, while fiercely refusing to sacrifice her freedom. The heroine's journey often turns inward. Rather than slaying a literal monster out in the wilderness, they are facing complex internal and societal obstacles.
And this quote from Nicole L. Franklin brilliantly frames another angle. When you have oppressed groups, all you can hope for is to get half as far by working twice as hard. This highlights the feminist critique that traditional mythic heroes often rely on some innate privilege or a royal bloodline, whereas underprivileged heroines have to fight deeply ingrained societal structures just to reach equal footing. They aren't returning with a magic elixir to save society. They're navigating an unequal society just to survive. Keeping this in mind can add just an incredible amount of depth and modern relevance to your character's motivations.
So, let's pull this all together into 4 actionable steps. Step 1. Start with a protagonist and a problem. Step 2. Use the monomyth as your structural guide. Step 3. Visualize the journey with precise anime prompts. And Step 4. Understand the critiques to evolve your story. The crucial point here is that by combining structured narrative theory with targeted visual aesthetics and an understanding of modern critiques, you hold the ultimate tools for creation. You seriously don't have to be intimidated by the blank page anymore. You have the engine, you have the paint, and you have the awareness to build something truly unique.
You have the narrative blueprint, and you have the visual prompts. The blank page is waiting. So take what you've learned from this explainer today and go forge your own myth. Play around with the structure, dial in those AI art styles, and create the protagonist we didn't even know we needed. The only question left is, what hero will you journey with next?